Welcome to Shikshan Sanstha's Western Region English Medium YouTube channel. Standard 9th Subject Revision of Political Science. Lesson number 4 United Nations. Lesson number 5 India and other countries. And lesson number 6 International Problems. Video number 34. Let's start the lesson number 4 United Nations, in which we are going to take the revision of main points. After the First World War, the League of the Nations was established as a mechanism to establish world peace, but the League of the Nations did not succeed. After the Second World War, the use of nuclear weapons was made, and the idea that such destructive wars should be stopped and that it is the collective responsibility of all the nations to do so, and that's why the United Nations was established after the Second World War to instill this understanding among all nations. And for this, at San Francisco in 1945, representatives of 50 countries drafted the Charter of the United Nations, and United Nations was established on 24th October 1945. The main objectives of the United Nations are to establish friendly relations among the nations. Second, to enhance international security by solving international disputes. Third, to safeguard and foster human rights and freedom. And to enhance economic cooperation at the international level. The United Nations has 6 main organs. The first one, General. All the member countries are the members of General Assembly. The annual session of the General Assembly takes place from September to December, and General Assembly is a good platform for all representatives of member nations to come together and discuss issues like environment, disarmament, and the issues of global importance. The main functions of General Assembly are to elect the non-permanent members of the Security Council, to choose the United Nations Secretary General, as well as judges of the International Court of Justice in consultation with the Security Council, and pass the annual budget of the United Nations. Second main organ of United Nations is Security Council. There are 15 members in this council. Out of these 15, 5 are permanent while 10 are non-permanent. Then America, Russia, England, France and China are permanent members of the Security Council, and they have the veto powers. Means for any decision to be taken, the assent of all 5 permanent members and 4 non-permanent members is essential. The main functions of the Security Council is to maintain international peace and security, to prepare policies for arms control, and to recommend it to the General Assembly the appointments of the judges of International Court of Justice and Secretary General. Next main organ is Economic and Social Council, which consists of 54 members, and every year 1/3 of the members are elected. Its main objective is to coordinate the economic and social activities of the United Nations, and main functions of this council are to discuss and take a decision on empowerment of women, human rights and freedom, global trade, health related issues, and make efforts to establish international cultural and educational cooperation, as well as coordinate the functioning of the affiliated organizations of the United Nations. The next main organ is International Court of Justice, which is located at The Hague in Netherlands. It is the judicial branch of the United Nations, which consisted of 15 judges elected by the General Assembly on the recommendations of the Security Council for a period of 9 years. The main functions include to settle down the disputes between 2 or more member nations of the United Nations, to interpret international law authentically, and to advise the various organs of the United Nations about legal issues. The last main organ of United Nations is Trusteeship Council, which took the responsibility of administration and development of the underdeveloped territories which was assigned to the developed countries as a trust territories. Once they attained independence, help them and establish democracy over there. But with the grant of independence to Palau Island in the Pacific on the 1st November 1994, the work of the Trusteeship Council has ended. Now let's see the Millennium Development Goals of United Nations, which was given by United Nations in the year 2000. The first one, to eliminate poverty and hunger. Second, to make available the facilities of primary education. Third, to bring about women's empowerment. Fourth, to reduce infant mortality rate. Fifth, to take special care of the health of pregnant women. Sixth, to fight diseases like AIDS, malaria, etc. And seventh, to protect the environment and increase the cooperation between developed and developing countries. United Nations play a very important role in preservation of peace and makes efforts to ensure that violence does not erupt in stripped-down areas and normalcy is restored as soon as possible. For example, starting schools, creating awareness among the people about human rights, make social, economic, political facilities available and conduct elections. United Nations also send peacekeeping forces in stripped-down areas, and the other supplementary activities of the United Nations are prevention of conflict and mediation, actually establish peace, implement the measures of protecting peace and peace building. India is a founder member of the United Nations, and India raised the issues like decolonization, disarmament, racism and issues of the developing countries on the platform of United Nations. And India also sent her troops to participate in the United Nations peacekeeping forces. And India also makes serious efforts to solve international conflicts by peaceful means. Now look at the main points of the fifth lesson, India and other countries. India is economically and technologically more advanced, and that's why India's position in Asia is geographically and politically more important. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, Bhutan, China, Maldives are India's neighbors, and the values of equality and mutual respect have a great importance in India's foreign policy, and India always maintain the relations with these neighboring countries on these values. The first neighboring country of India is Pakistan. The Indo-Pak relations are influenced by three main factors: differences in the worldviews of both the countries, second, the Kashmir issue, third one, the nuclear rivalry between the two countries. And on the Kashmir issue, the first Indo-Pak war took place in 1965. Again in 1999, there was a conflict between India and Pakistan over the infiltration by Pakistan in the Kargil region. Next neighboring country is China. The conflict between India and China is connected to two issues. First one, border issue and the status of Tibet. The border dispute between India and China is related to Aksai Chin area and the McMahon line. China is not willing to agree that McMahon line is an international border. India made several efforts to sort this border dispute by means of dialogue, but it has not met with much success, and in 1962 China attacked India. Next neighboring country of India is Afghanistan. There is a lot of political instability in Afghanistan due to the terrorist organization Taliban, and India helped out Afghanistan to bring peace, security, stability and curb violence and establish democracy over there. Similarly, India also helped out in providing the facilities like building roads, cooperate in the fields of science and technology, build schools, health facilities and irrigation projects. Next neighboring country of India is Bangladesh. Today's Bangladesh is the East, while East Pakistan. There was linguistic and political differences between East and West Pakistan, and the movement to liberate Bangladesh emerged out of this. India helped Bangladesh in its freedom struggle, and Bangladesh was formed in 1971. Some treaties also signed between India and Bangladesh regarding sharing river waters, some regarding the shared borders, which put an end to the conflict between them. India has always friendly relationship with the neighboring country like Sri Lanka. So when there was a political instability in Sri Lanka, India helped out by sending peacekeeping forces to help the Sri Lankan government. Next neighboring country of India is Nepal. A friendship treaty, which is known as Indo-Nepalese Friendship Treaty, signed between India and Nepal in 1950. According to this treaty, Nepalese citizens can not only enter the India, but they can also permitted to take up government jobs and carry on trade in India. India has taken up itself the responsibility of the defense of Bhutan, and India has also helped Bhutan in the Hadapsar project. India's next neighboring country, Myanmar, which is India's door to the Southeast Asian countries. The rail and roadways will bring development, increase trade and other exchanges between India and Myanmar, and India also import natural gas from Myanmar. Next neighboring country is Maldives, which is depend on India for development of trade, infrastructure, health and communication. Again, Maldives and India also enter into treaties to cooperation in space research, conservation of historical objects, tourism and fight against terrorism. Right from the beginning, America was India's most important trading partner. The civil nuclear agreement signed in 2005 between India and America, which was approved by the US Congress in 2008, was an important landmark in Indo-American relations. India and Russia today have always shared friendly relationship. The Indo-Soviet Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation was signed between them, and both the countries built together the projects related to production of military equipments and production of mineral oil. India and European nations have good trade relationship, and several treaties have been signed in the fields of climate change, clean energy, defense production, disaster management, security of airspace and terrorism. India has consciously taken steps to build cooperation between India and the continent of Africa. India's energy needs fulfilled by the energy-rich countries like Egypt, Nigeria, Angola and Sudan. The Summit Conference of India and Africa was also held in 2015. In this conference, 54 African countries attended this conference, and various issues discussed in this conference like climate change, terrorism and piracy. Indo-Pacific area includes countries like Japan, Australia, New Zealand and Southeast Asian nations. Treaties have been signed between India and Australia about social security, extradition of criminals, the mission against smuggling of drugs, terrorism, art and culture. Japan also cooperates India in basic facilities, economic cooperation, information technology, atomic energy and railways, and also in the development and security of coastal areas. India had very cordial relations with Southeast Asian nations like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. After globalization, the trade relations with Southeast Asian nations have grown. This increasing trade policy with Southeast Asian nations is known as Look East policy, which is nowadays known as the Act East policy. India depends on West Asian countries like Iran, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates for oil, and from Israel. India also get modern technology for agriculture and defense equipment. Now let's study the main points from the 6th lesson, International Problems. The problems which affect the whole world are called international problems. The first major problem related to human rights. Human rights are those rights that are necessary for living as a human being and as a constituent of society. In India, Human Rights Protection Act was enacted in 1993, and National Human Rights Commission and the State Human Rights Commission were established, which take the appropriate actions regarding the violation of the human rights. Human rights have gained a broader meaning and acceptance, so the secure environment is an important human right. Large-scale industrialization, increasing need for energy, chemical fertilizers and pesticides, sound pollution by vehicles, radiation from nuclear reactors, oil leakages or leakages of chemical gases from various industries, all these things make the environment unsafe. United Nations Conference on Human Environment took place at Stockholm from 5th to 16 June 1972. It was pointed out that in this conference that it is the responsibility of all nations to cooperate to overcome pollution. Next conference held at Rio, in which the concept of sustainable development was discussed and different treaties on biodiversity, climate change due to greenhouse gases, protection of forests were signed. In 1997, at the Kyoto Conference, a 15-year protocol on prevention of climate changes for developed countries was adopted. A conference at Paris in 2015, it was a bill that all nations should make concrete efforts to stop climate change and global warming. Terrorism is next international problem. Terrorism is spreading fear and terror in a society by using or threatening to use violence against common people for achieving political goals. It is organized and planned violence. It is a major problem which has intensified in different countries, and no country is capable of countering it on its own. Next one is the problem of refugees. Refugees are the people who have to leave their motherland against their wishes or are forced to go to other nations. People become refugees due to torture or persecution for belonging to a particular race or religion due to the war or a disaster, etc. On arrival in the host country, the refugees face the problems like finding work and place to live, adjusting with language and culture of other nation, and hostility of the local people. So students, today we have conducted the revision of political science, lesson number 4, 5 and 6. Do understand the concept and revise at home. Thank you.